The Irrational Confidence Podcast. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Irrational Confidence Podcast. We're talking college football, and it is week number, I think we're at week 11 here. We're here for week 11. College football playoff committee rankings are out. We have our first rankings, and Fresh and I have some very strong opinions on these things. I'm joined by my co-host, the man who tried to catch a little bit of fog. He missed, though. Fresh, how you doing, buddy?
Haps doing great. We could spend all day talking about the rankings that just came out this evening. We are recording on Tuesday, November 4th. Seth has his onto the Irrational Confidence Twitter poll. So if you want to go to Irrational Confidence on Twitter, at IR Confidence Pod, you can get his full breakdown of why he has them ranked the way he has. My full rankings are done weekly. You'll see them on spinnablesports.com. So if you're looking for that direct feedback, you can have them there. My initial thoughts, we can spend all day talking about it. Number one,
this whole show could be it.
1 through like 16, I'm okay with, because eventually we're gonna have meetings of all these teams that sort of work themselves out. The bottom of it, there's a lot of Big Ten and SEC teams that were added in. The Tennessees, the Michigans, the Iowas of the world, even Missouri sort of falling down. Like we had the case, like Missouri played Alabama and Vandy tough, but they're still, what have they done? I think they're still there for the A&M game this week to give them one boost and say, hey, they had a ranked win. That's kind of why Tennessee's still there. They're not ranked. Tennessee's not ranked in my top 25, but they're there probably for the Alabama and the Georgia and the Oklahoma win that they took the L on. So it's more, that's the reason why there's a lot of Big Ten and SEC teams. Maybe they're building up or giving that for the higher ranked teams who are really, in theory, in running to that top 11 spot. Because only the top 11 teams were going to matter. And the other thing that irritated me was there's no group of 5 team. I mean, come on, Memphis, North Texas, AV. Well, their strength schedule is terrible. Don't even get me. That's a Sunbelt team. Like the USF. Where's these American Conference teams that you can't just wait for one of them to start? They're going to win the conference championship week and be done with it. They've got to at least be staggered, because you know what? In the end, their ranking is going to determine if they're 11th or 12th. We saw it last year. You got to put them in. And I personally think what Memphis or USF has done has more credence than what Tennessee's done, because Tennessee has 3 L's. But that's enough for me right now. We'll see how this plays out. We still got a month to the final rankings, but the bottom of the top 25 is where I have my issues.
I'm cool with 1 through 10. 1 through 10, I'm good with, because 1 through 4 kind of knew it was coming. Again, I put my rankings out there and what I valued more, but I could definitely make a case for Ohio State, Indiana, Texas A&M, Alabama. Look, those top 4 teams, you're not going to get much argument out of me that those are the top 4 teams in the entire country. 5 through 10, I don't really have a problem with. I think that we could take all 5 of those names, 6 of those names, put them in a hat, draw them out, and I would have no problem with that ranking. Whatever you came up with, I'd probably be pretty cool with that. It's 11 through the back half. Again, you already hit on the back half, so I'll go a little bit closer to this top 15 area. Texas, I mean, granted, I'll give them nice win over Vandy. Texas over, and the fact is that you put Virginia in at 14, Louisville at 15. Both teams only have a single loss. Louisville's only loss is to Virginia, who's ranked ahead of him, and Utah. Like Utah. Utah got boat race.
Do you understand that Texas being ranked high is the only thing that's actually keeping Ohio State that this is really Ohio State's real true win? But yet it's not looking like a great win, but they are getting inflated because of their logo. And I think Archer's played better the past 2 weeks. They're going to try to bump them up and try to, layer it. We'll find out how the season plays out. But there's definitely some logo and money inflation to get Texas in the playoff.
I think it's just, I don't care if it inflates my own team. Freshie, I've been doing this a long enough time that you'll know that I'll call what it is on my own team, even if they say these things. But I'll be the first to tell you, I don't care if it props up my own team. There's in no world in my mind is Texas or Oklahoma deservingly to be ranked above Virginia or Louisville. Absolutely. It's the most asinine thing I've ever seen for the Utah Utes to be rated ahead of these guys. Heck, I'll even go as far as Virginia Tech. I would take Virginia straight up I'll go Paul Abdul on you here. I'll tell you, Utah versus Georgia Tech on a neutral field. Give me Tech all the time on that one. I just don't think they can hang with them. I like Utah. Don't give me. Utah is a great program. It's a nice team. All right. But does everyone not remember what Texas Tech walked in and did to them? Again, who's Utah's huge win? Arizona. They beat Arizona State with no Sam Levitt and very much
Cincinnati's win. It's the
Cincinnati's
bias. The recency bias.
Jeez, oh my God. Like, again, my issue doesn't involve this. Here's the thing. I think they should have put mandates on there. And I know ESPN put out a little bit later of the 12-team bracket projection. Right now, again,
Memphis is the last team in because they rank them all the way down, so they're technically still counting for it. But yeah, it's pretty bad.
Yeah, but Virginia's in at 11 seed. Utah doesn't make the field, and I'm okay with that. But it's the fact is that they're there, and they could, if they went out, they could steal an at-large bid if some craziness happens ahead of them. Like, I don't know. I really do value the results on the field in a Power 4 to an extent, but
I mean, this week we're going to get Tulane, Memphis, a very important game, but neither of them are ranked. Oregon's getting a gift by having Iowa ranked. BYU, Texas, though, is going to be a top 9 matchup, which would be perfect. Navy could have been ranked and could have helped out Notre Dame, but they aren't. But that USC game, that wins from earlier, that's really going to help Notre Dame. That's just going to help layer them up. And then A&M, this is Missouri's last chance, and we'll talk about that game in a minute. But A&M getting that ranked Missouri team and then having Texas, that's a way to sort of either they can really put themselves in the top 3 spot, or they are going to have some ranked losses and they'll be, resume sort of strengtheners. So I think A&M is basically at this point in the playoff regardless. Because if you lose to Missouri and you lose to Texas, those 2 ranked wins are going to give them, and they're going to say, hey, you're 10-2, you're in. So A&M fans, get ready to punch your ticket for the playoff. You're probably in, and you most likely could be hosting the game at worst in Kyle Field.
Yeah, unless something like just absolutely a bottom falls out on them. I think pretty much the top 6 are probably locked in. I think we're looking at those 4 SEC teams, 2 Big Ten teams.
I would say Georgia has a tough spot. Georgia's not
they do.
This is the reason why, because you got Texas and you got Georgia Tech later on at already having 1 loss. Are people going to start doubting how the rest of the SEC plays out? Because if they're that 5th SEC team, there might be someone in the Big 12. I'd say it's a long shot, but it's still, you're playing Tech, which is going to boost them up and probably make them at large bid because their ACC title game is still on the fritz. And if Texas gets a win, then you have Texas, Alabama, Ole Miss, and A&M at least. Are they going to roll a 2 or 3 loss in Georgia who doesn't play for a conference championship? We'll find out. So there's still a lot of intrigue left and a lot of movement going down the stretch.
Right. And there's always those teams because we got 4 weeks they'll come out of it. Listen, 2025 has been a completely insane year for college football. Let's say craziness continues and one of these teams that are in the bottom half makes a run, goes undefeated through the rest of their schedule. And next thing you know, they're sitting at 10 because of the chaos that happens above them.
Yeah, this is going to be, as we've seen, even was it 2022 or Tennessee or 21 or 2020? It was 2022. Tennessee gets the first, number 1 spot in the first ever poll that comes out. They go into Athens. Georgia was AP number 1, and Georgia beats the trash out of them.
And they go in a spiral.
And Mississippi State was the number 1 ranked team one year, and they lasted a week and they failed out. So, not saying that we're going to see Ohio State and Indiana lose this week. It's still any game, any given Saturday, but there's a long way to go until that final projection, the final ranking is out, and the playoff really starts.
Yeah, exactly. And I texted you, buckle up, Buttercup, because this is, oh, boy, howdy. I think I got a couple of text messages that said, like, did you see the rankings? And I think people were waiting for me to, like, take umbrage with 1 through 10 or 1 through, I was like, yeah, I'm okay with that. That's fine. And then I started like scrolling down because you get like the first, like, just here's the top 12. You see who the bracket would be. I'm like, okay. And then I'm scrolling down and seeing the rest of them. Like, wait, you gotta be kidding me. And yeah, so we got a lot to talk about. Fresh, let's roll into the games here. We got Tulane. They're going to Memphis here. We're talking about that American Conference who is looking like they're going to get that at-large bid. Right now, spread of this game, Memphis. This game's on Friday night, 9 p.m. Memphis is down 5.5-point favorite, and this over-under is 55.5. Memphis has been rolling here, Fresh. Tulane looked really good to start the year. I don't necessarily know if they're the same team as they were. Brendan Lewis from Memphis has just been absolutely on fire, kind of do everything quarterback. Can it hold out? I don't necessarily know. And Tulane's defense can be feisty at times.
Well, looking at this game, obviously both these teams are pretty high up in the thought. There's a lot of one-loss teams in the American, whether it's ECU, whether it's USF, whether it's Navy, whether it's Memphis or Tulane. It's a battle way out down the stretch. Not many more games for Tulane to make up, but Memphis can have a gauntlet down the stretch here to really either solidify their spot or watch it slip through their fingers. Tulane, they have no room for error. That's that drubbing they took at UTSA. The only way they threw is to win out, get in the title game, and then win it. They cannot take a loss. They cannot take a bad effort. It's a win out, or your season technically everything you dreamed of is over. The distraction of John Summerall and all the other rumors of whether he's going to LSU, whether he's going to Auburn, whether he's going to Arkansas, whether he's going to Florida, whether he's going to Penn State, or what other job that's going to pop up. Is that weighing on this football team? Is that weighing on Retzlaff and the offense and the defense? And are they thinking, well, our coach is about to be gone? Is he truly invested? Are we truly invested? We're about to find out on Friday night because this is all the marbles. Everything in the middle, everything, all the chips being thrown in, got to get it done. And just put your head down. You have your win versus Arkansas. You have your one slip up, but your gift right now, you can't look ahead. This game, then next week becomes bigger. If you lose this game, that puts you in a real hole, makes it real struggle to get in the title game. You have to keep really clawing yourself back. Just focus on your own business, one game at a time, and knock it out. I will say, at the beginning of the year, I put a nice bet on Tulane to make the playoff. But the odds are pretty good. That loss to UTSA have me losing a lot of doubt. I don't think the team is fully mentally focused on all sides of the ball. I think Retzlaff is sort of fallen off defensively. Defense has sort of had some issues. I'm taking Memphis to roll. I think Memphis knows that right now Tulane is fragile, and Memphis, they can get a 10-point lead. They'll be able to just put them away pretty quickly, especially being at home. Memphis will win this big because they know they have a lot in front of them. And Tulane, I think it seems like they just don't have enough gas left in the tank, and you start to see it all drift away. It'll be a fun game. If Tulane can pull it off, we're going to see more chaos in the American. And to your point, that might open up a James Madison opportunity because losses might just start mounting across the league. But I think Memphis takes care of business on Friday night.
Fresh, if you go back a couple of years ago and remember when we were talking about all the conference realignment, and this was before the collapse of the Pac-12, it's when I think this was right after, we had Texas, Oklahoma announced, and then we had UCLA and USC. But I think this was before Oregon and Washington left for the Big Ten. We were kind of projecting on who we thought would be a team that would move out there and go to a Power 4 conference or Power 5 conference at the time. And the two teams that we really discussed that weren't in Power 4 conferences at that moment were SMU because we knew what kind of endowment and the boosters they had, and Memphis. Memphis was that program that at that time, the governor of Tennessee, and again, I might have the details slightly off here, but if I remember right, the governor put into the state budget that they were going to do a full $40 to $50 million renovation to facilities. And then there was going to be additional state money added to fixing their stadium as the whole. Yeah, as a whole idea to get them, the governor was trying to push them into a power conference as well, because he realized what kind of revenue that generates for the school, i.e. what type of revenue it generates for the state in an area like Memphis, because you get into a Power 4 conference, whether it's, let's say it's the Big 12, people want to go see, all right, I'm Cincinnati playing Memphis or something like that, or I'm Iowa State playing Memphis. I've always wanted to visit Graceland. I'm a big Elvis fan for some reason. I like peanut butter and banana sandwiches. All right, I'll go check out Memphis when my team travels out there or something along those lines. I think this is the kind of the ripple effect of that moment a couple of years ago when they invested all that money. I know Memphis is in the American, I think we're probably maybe another year, maybe 2 years away from another set of realignment. I think Memphis is probably a program that some of these conferences might be like a circling, similar to an SMU, similar to a Cincinnati or Houston. I'm kind of pinpointing them to go to the Big 12. I think that'd be a natural fit for them, kind of ease the geographic locations. But I think the success that they're having on the field is that long-term investment, and showing that if you invest into your program, like Memphis has done, you will get these positive results as long as you're doing it the right way. And I think Memphis is done it the right way. Brendan Lewis has been absolutely phenomenal right now. I would love to see him throw a couple more touchdown passes. He's 10 touchdown passes, 4 interceptions. He's almost completed 70% of his passes. Again, this is a rushing attack. They're going to keep the ball on the ground. They're 2 times as many rushing attempts as passing attempts, or pass completions. I'm sorry, just over 100 more on that one. But you can see what Memphis is able to do. Although that Tulane defense does give me a little bit of pause, but I'm right. I'm with you. I'm going with Memphis at home. Big win out of them.
The pressure's on Silverfield too, because anytime Memphis, there's always openings up there. He might be one of the other candidates to get a job. So both these coaches are getting a lot of looks. And it's just which of these coaches can keep their teams focused and what they keep playing for who they are right now and not worrying about what may or may not be happening behind the scenes. Very similar to what Lane Kiffin's done, where he basically met with the teams like, guys, look, when you win, people are going to come looking for you to have a new job. Let's just go out there and we're the team now. If we win, no one can take it away from us. So we'll see what kind of mentality those coaches have their teams ready for, because there's a lot of chatter around them in the coaching circuit.
Hey, Fresh, let's go out to Lubbock, Texas. This is probably the best game of the weekend. I don't think there's a more impactful game this weekend. I mean, maybe people might argue Oregon, Iowa, or Texas in Missouri, but I really think there's not a bigger game out there than BYU versus Texas Tech right now. At time of record, Texas Tech is a 10.5 point favorite in this game. Over under is set at 52.5. I'll ask you this, Meyer, for BYU has been phenomenal as a true freshman over there. Texas Tech has looked practically unbeatable at a lot of times over the course of the year. And their offense has been absolutely electric, save times that they don't have their starting quarterback. Looks like all systems are go for the Red Raiders here. What does BYU do to keep this game close?
They're going to have to run the ball, sustain the drives. Don't let that pass rush to teeing off on you. You get a spot where you have to spread out and start throwing it late. We saw what that pass rush for Texas Tech can do. They did last week. And going into this ball game, Texas Tech is already a very desperate football team. They already have one conference loss. The rest of their schedule is less than appealing, so they're not really going to gain any impressive wins the rest of the way. And another loss probably puts them out of the title game and maybe even puts them out of the playoffs. So they are a desperate dog the rest of the way. BYU has a chance to make it up and get back into the title game today. Cincinnati later. Now there's opportunities for BYU. I think right there, with all that money that's being invested in this entire Texas Tech program and athletic department in general, there's no more excuses. And if they don't win this ball game at home, it might cost McGuire's job, because they're shelling out tons of cash, whether it's softball, basketball, baseball, football, every sport. They've got to win. And they are not going after these big-time recruits and offering them tons of money, these 5-star, number 1 overall players in the country. If they can't deliver, it's burning. You might as well light money on fire. So it's time for them to win. And if this team's not motivated to show up on Saturday at home and get it done, they never will be. I'm taking Texas Tech big. I think BYU is a great story, but they don't have enough weapons offensively to sustain. And if they can get down early, that pass rush for Texas Tech will be unleashed and get after them. Kalini Solani has done a great job. I believe I pronounced his name right. Getting BYU competitive, and they're not recruiting a top 20 class every year. They're transfer portal classes and dynamic. He coaches, and obviously there are grown men there that's going on mission. But this seems like a game where Texas Tech, all systems go, to be very similar to the Utah game going out to Salt Lake City. First couple quarters are close, and then later and later they just wear them down and they take over. And that second half they just pull away. If BYU wins this game, they might be a top 4 team. Because you're going on the road to Lubbock, locking it down, and you're basically eliminating Texas Tech. But I don't see that happening. I think the Red Raiders just have too many weapons, and there's too much motivation for them to deliver on Saturday afternoon out there in Texas. The oil money oil money over the Mormon money big time.
Right. And my question is BYU just soaking it all in and just enjoying like the feeling of being this highly rated early on and having just, are they going to get fat and happy on this moment here? Because it seems like BYU does this every single year, and it leaves their fans dissatisfied. I don't know. This is a prove it game for me for BYU. This is really a prove it game. I would be okay with BYU if BYU loses by like a field goal in this game or 4 points. 4 or 5 points. That shows me that this is not the BYU team that we've seen the last couple of years. That like, yeah, you beat up everyone early on in your schedule and you wind up kind of, messing the bed on the way down at the end of the season. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, that's BYU for you.
Deliver in November.
Like, exactly. Fun fact though, Buddy Holly was born in Lubbock, Texas. There for the Red Raiders. So, got to be worth something. So I'll give that Buddy Holly worth magic, worth at least a field goal more. So I would say I would take Texas Tech and the points in this one. I like the 10 and a half.
I think they
I
cover.
do too.
This is that point where it's like, all right, now you have to put your foot down. It's all a country's reason. Put your foot on the gas. Go get it done.
Yeah. All right, folks, let's go to the next one. This one's over in the SEC. We kind of alluded to this, but this one is going to be in Missouri, in Columbia. I still think the Missouri Tigers are a bunch of frauds. So, yeah, we'll save that for a later time and date. They have moved back into Fraudville in my mind, though. A&M Aggies, they are headed to Missouri. This is a 3:30 kickoff. It's going to be the ABC game during that time. Right now, the spread is 6.5 Texas A&M. It's moved 2 points since the line opened at 4.5 there. I think a lot of that money is coming in on A&M. Over under set at 48.5 here. Missouri lost their quarterback. I think he's done. I think he's not coming back for the rest of the season. I mean, Matt Zoller's looked okay. He's freshman quarterback, but he's going up against Central Arkansas Bears, what conference is Central Arkansas Bears playing, Fresh?
The Atlantic Sun.
Is that, it says UAC.
University of Central Arkansas they were the Atlantic Sun for SCS. They might have transferred out, but they are very low football. He's actually an NFL player that got drafted out there last year. Or 2 years ago.
Got you?
But he's a defensive lineman. This team, Missouri is in a tough spot. This is the last time everyone keeps holding on. Obviously, you have a deep hatred for Missouri. Really, as much as you want to cry about it, I think it also comes back to losing in that Cotton Bowl a little bit. They aren't the greatest. Drink is a talker. They've had too many chances to show up and prove it, and they come up short. They played Alabama tough. They played Vandy tough, but without their quarterback, I don't see them having much of a chance. That defense, there's talent, but that's not enough to hold them up in this ball game. If they win this game, major kudos, but I don't see there's any chance. And with Drink obviously being, according to some odds makers, the top candidate right now to get the Penn State job. Again, where's this team's focus? Losing your quarterback, there's not much hope there to win the SEC or even play for a title. Playoff spots on the fritz. You have no ranked wins, but A&M fans are terrified. And the reason why is you're an A&M fan, they have a deep attachment to being 8-4 or 9-3 and being good but not great year in and year out. And that's that fear of just getting over the hump, getting this win. They still have Texas in Austin later in the year, but getting over that hump and just getting this win. Is it a different A&M football team? Can they finally just put the blinders on, drive through? Can Reed get it done? Can the defense keep playing fast? Can Concepcion, that offensive line, just all parts play as one and keep that moving forward game by game? Focus on today. Focus on the Tigers in Missouri. Nothing else. Just get the win. Good chance you might even lock yourself into an SEC championship game, which A&M has never actually played in since they've joined the league. There's a lot of expectations here. We saw it last year. They went to Auburn. They had no business losing that ball game, and they lost. Same situation here. It's going on a game where it's all in front of you. Can you finish it out? I think this A&M team is different. They have learned from last year. I think they take care of business and they do it, and they're going to cover that 6.5. And we might be seeing Drink take a job pretty quickly after that outside of Columbia, Missouri. This game it'll be close to the first half, but that A&M team, that A&M defense will eventually wear down the Tigers and they will prevail.
The difference with Texas A&M for me is Mike Elko. As you talked about the Aggie syndrome, which is this deep-rooted fear that they have that eventually when all their hope is built up, it comes crashing down. And again, it was first year with Mike Elko last year. I think that team overachieved quite a bit last season, and he didn't really have his full system in place. I think we're finally seeing the true Mike Elko system, the system we saw 2 years ago when he was at Duke and had the Blue Devils really, really a competitive football team. You go back and watch that Duke versus Notre Dame game. What was that, 2 years ago?
Yep, Riley Leonard on one leg.
Yeah, and one of the best college football games we've seen in a long time. That was a really great game. I think Elko has finally kind of found the magic to unlock Texas A&M. This is a very good Texas A&M team. They have a very strong rushing attack with them. Owens and Moss and Reed, you can't really key in on one guy because all three of them are huge contributors to that ground game. And Reed has started to show improvements on his passing ability. Still got a little bit ways to go. I don't think he's a finished product there, but I definitely think that I've seen the improvement from last year to this year. And Missouri, to me, yeah, you can always point back and say this, but the problem with Missouri is not like you can say like, all right, you're angry with the Cotton Bowl. I kind of moved past because Kyle McCord left them in a kind of a terrible spot. You had Lincoln Keenholz, who was a true freshman in that game, but hadn't gotten really any reps at it. Is what it is. My problem with Missouri is I feel like Missouri embodies SEC bias. SEC bias is the Missouri Tigers. SEC bias does not include the Alabama Crimson Tide. It does not include the Georgia Bulldogs. It does not really even include Texas A&M. SEC bias is when you take a team that is middle of the road, average, slightly above average, and prop them up. And I feel like every single year, Missouri, we played these two teams tough, by golly, by G, and we're great, but they don't. Tell me what drinks, give me the three best winnings Drinkwitz has had there. Okay, see, and
sounds like a lot like Iowa in the past 5 years.
Well, in the past 5 years, but at least Kirk Ferentz had like a 25-year career of doing this as successfully. Missouri, to me, is the biggest frauds out there because of they never are competitive. Never at that point where they're in the top echelon of the conference there. I don't think, and Zoller's played in the Vandy game, not just the Central Arkansas game. That was earlier in the season. But I just don't see them having the firepower to compete with Texas A&M. I think Texas A&M is on a mission. I think Texas A&M is very physical at the line of scrimmage. So give me A&M to just I have a feeling like this is going to be a couple of just really big haymaker punches, and Missouri is just going to be knocked out by halftime.
Yeah, I think Drink will be looking at calling his real estate agent pretty quickly after this ball game.
Yeah. All right, Fresh. Well, let's talk about your favorite team in the Big Ten, the Iowa Hawkeyes here. Going to be hosting the Oregon Ducks as well. Right now, time record, 6.5-point road favorite in Kinnick Stadium. Over under is set at 40.5. Those numbers are very low, but Iowa does have a defense, like always. I mean, what else is death taxes? And Iowa has no offense, but a decent defense. Oregon, I haven't seen anything right now. I know Dante Moore had an injury late in their last game against Wisconsin, where he stepped out of that game towards the end of it. He's had 2 weeks off to kind of get better, so I would expect him to play in this game. But what do you got with Oregon versus Iowa?
Well, Oregon hasn't really beaten anyone.
Yeah,
their best win was at Penn State in double overtime, which that team has been an absolute dumpster fire. They've beaten some teams, and they played for 2.5, 3 quarters versus Indiana at home. We need that show me game here. This has to be that game where you don't come out and just beat Iowa. You have to really assert yourself, because Iowa, their offense, we know is just terrible. And who have they actually beaten? That's another question. Nobody. They're ranked just because they're 6-2 in the Big Ten. There's not much talent in this team. They play defense because they play bad offenses. Oregon, you can't let this one slip through your fingers. If you play sloppy, if you lose, Dan Lanning, you might actually put your playoff hopes on the fritz because we're going to be like, you beat a bad Penn State team, got handled pretty handily by Indiana, and you can't go on the road and beat Iowa. You have no other team on your calendar, on your rest of your schedule is going to help boost you up. You're in trouble.
Yes.
That's right. USC later in the season. You're right. But the pickers are slim.
And Washington.
And you need to show up and get it done because right now it's been pretty ho-hum and uninspiring. It's probably the best way to put it. Well, the best way you win this football game, if somehow that you've got to be physical on both sides and really test the manhood of the Oregon Ducks. But I don't care who's at quarterback. You've got to online scrimmage, make it sloppy, muck it up, do what you do normally, try to win the game 10-0. I don't really see that happening. I think Oregon's good for at least 2 touchdowns, and that right there is the reason why Iowa can't last. I think Dan Lanning knows that the pressure's on this team to start winning, and they got to find a way to deliver. The running game, though, has also been, hasn't been as intriguing. We also had big high hopes for Mekhi Hughes, and that sort of drifted off, and he got replaced. But the running game has been consistent, but not eye-popping like it has been under George James in prior years. Losing Evan Stewart in the passing game is starting to show its rear its ugly head now, where you don't have that dominant number one receiver. So this offensive team, it's in November. You got to start ramping yourself up and getting ready because if you are a playoff team, you're going to have to start showing somebody and showing the nation and showing everybody else that you have that moxie and that skill to compete at a high level. Yes, it is survive in advanced mode, but you got to have something to sort of hang your hat on. So this game right here, it's a chance to have a ranked win according to the committee. Go in there and take care of business. Don't let anything else become too big of it. Don't worry about the pink locker room or the amazing, waving at the children's hospital. Focus on winning the football game. Take care of business, handle it, be a mature football team, and move on to next week. If you start getting caught up in all the pageantry and all the other stuff that goes around that being at Iowa, you're going to be distracted and you're going to lose. Dan Lanning, you can't let something slip through your fingers, man. You got to keep this thing going forward. If you somehow lose this ball game and then let the playoff spot potentially slip away, this day and age, as great as a coach you are, things might ramp up. In the end, I think Oregon takes care of business. They just have more talent. But Iowa will make it a game for about a half.
Fresh, there's 3-week stretch that Iowa is on. Could be what we look at as like almost like a slingshot set of weekends where you bring a team that isn't the greatest, but they go on, they get hot at the right moment. They get slingshotted up into the playoffs. You take a look at what they did last week. To Minnesota, 41-3. I know offensively, not the greatest game, but it is. Iowa knocks off. Okay, so you have a big win versus Minnesota. You beat Oregon. And then next week, you travel to the Coliseum to beat USC. Then you end the season with Michigan State and a Dylan Raiola-less Nebraska. You could again, Iowa was ranked, 23rd in these rankings, right?
24th.
24th?
23rd, 24th.
If you think about like what I just said, you would say they blew out Minnesota. They beat Oregon at home, who is ranked in the top 10, and then go on the road to beat a USC team. I'm saying you can't have, this is not meatloaf. This is not 2 out of 3 ain't bad. This is all 3 things have to happen to slingshot them. But if all 3 things happen, I wouldn't be shocked to see the committee put them in the top 12.
We'll see.
I get it. I'm asking the improbable. Now, I'm going to say that to you, and I'm going to pick Oregon to win the game.
The committee knows we're picking the best 12 teams in the country. Iowa still does not qualify as one of the best 12 teams in the country at the top. I don't care what you do this week.
I agree. I'm talking about a 3-week period there that winds up putting them up there. I can see the committee members taking a complete love fest over this real quick. For Oregon, I know people are going to criticize them, and I think the report I saw that there was a robust debate on Oregon at number 9 in the initial rankings and who have they beat, and they lost to Indiana and yada yada yada. I get all that. You go, these are prop up games because you have Iowa again, which is ranked 20th. I'm not in love with that ranking for them. I am okay with USC at 19 because I think this USC team is better and better. They got USC in 2 weeks, and then they have to go to Seattle, Washington. I know other people may like poo-poo on Washington, and I've gotten a chance to watch them a little bit more. The game against the Wolverines wasn't great, and I don't really love what I saw them. But what I've seen out of Desmond Williams for Washington in a lot of the other times this season has been really, really good. That's not a gimme game for Oregon, especially with the game being in Washington.
No, and they're hated rivals. Actually, I have USC and Washington both ranked in my top 25. That's a game where that's packed full of rivals we have hatred.
Yeah.
Something that I think.
What is West Coast? Is this like death row, bad boy, like East Coast, West Coast rivalry yet? I want to make some sort
still
of
regional.
That's unfortunate.
There's not the four teams out there don't. The only team that would have a rivalry with anyone might be Ohio State USC or Ohio State or Michigan USC just because of historical purposes. But that's not Ohio State maybe just because they've had they've met, a couple of times. They had some, bad blood, but there's no one's a rival with Maryland. No one's a rival with Rutgers in the Big Ten. They're not even rivals themselves. So there's a problem there. That's where this whole stretching out the Big Ten in itself became weird because those aren't rivals. Indiana historically, the only rival they ever had in football was Purdue. Illinois, Northwestern are only rivals because they're in the state. There's not even really Big Ten rivals. Iowa, Minnesota, Illinois, and Wisconsin are rivals. Michigan and Ohio State were never rivals to anybody else except for each other because they dominated everybody.
Well,
Nebraska,
it's a turtle trophy.
A turtle? Ohio State dominated that thing. They kept it in Columbus forever. Nebraska, they don't really have a rival because they came from the Big 12 or the Big 8. The Big 10
Oklahoma
forcing rivalries, but there's not real across the board. Not many rivals outside of the Minnesota, Iowa, Wisconsin, Illinois. The four of those states hate each other. Outside of that, all right, sorry, Michigan State, Michigan, but the Big Ten feel like a lot of forced rivalries. But at least on the West Coast, the USC, Oregon, Washington, and UCLA. There's some returning and continuous hatred from those schools.
I really do want to know, though. I mean, Fresh, you've spent more time in Wisconsin than I have, but I've never spent a minute in Wisconsin, so I'll say that. But again, the Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, Nebraska, what is the Midwestern farm rivalry? You let the oil out of my tractor, don't you know? Is that what the rivalries and hatred is over there? I don't get why those would be. I would like to.
Wisconsin hates Minnesota for multiple reasons because Minnesota, the whole entire state sucks. But they hate them for the Vikings. They hate them for the Twins. It's all their sort of thing. Iowa, Wisconsin, it's just farmers, I guess. Illinois, Wisconsin, Illinois there's more hatred there, in my opinion, because you have the Cubs and you have the Bears. They have nothing else better to do. They're just a different state.
Yeah. You got to do something with this daylight savings times that we do for the farmers.
Honestly, most of those schools, it's either basketball or hockey where they had, in football, they still have to compete against.
No, don't you know?
They were all competing. They're all competing for third or fourth in the Big Ten every single year because Michigan, Ohio State dominated every sport, since the beginning of time.
Yeah. All right, Fresh. Well, we could talk a while. I really don't want us to talk much more about the rivalries in the farm area of our country right now. Let's go to an actual rivalry. This is one that is going to be it's going to be a joke of a game just because I think Alabama is going to absolutely annihilate LSU. But LSU is traveling to Bryant-Denny right now at time of record. Alabama is a laughable 10.5 point favorite. Over under in this game is set 49.5. Take the over in both, folks. I'm taking the points and this LSU. I don't think I would utter these words. LSU is in shambles right now.
Well, the whole thing top to bottom. We had the governor going for AD, and the president just got, the whole thing is a complete disaster. One thing that came out during the interviews this week, the coaches talking about was the defensive coordinator actually asking the new interim head coach if they can actually practice live scenarios and actually hit in practice. Wait, huh? So you're telling me in practice you never had your defense and offense scrimmaging in live situations with scout team and actually make contact? There was never hitting? What was going on? What was Brian Kelly doing down there? If the own DC is asking the interim coach, who is also on staff, Frank Wilson, to make changes in practice to have much more of a live and realistic approach, What the heck were they doing the past 4 years?
I don't know.
That's embarrassing when the DC is coming out and the interim coach, who both have been on staff, are like, you know what? We're going to try to take a different approach, and we're actually going to, here's a thought, be realistic about our look at it. Boom! That right there just tells me either we're going to get a very inspired LSU football team, or they're going to get beat by 50. There's no in between. The inspired is like, we're actually going to practice and actually, prepare for a football game this week, or we are just so terrible and there's no soul. This is going to be the first sign of trouble. They're going to kneel down like they have done their past 4 years. I expect right off the bat in the first quarter, first drive, offense and defense, we'll know in that first quarter if LSU actually decides and they care, or if they're just going to go through the motions. Alabama, do not let LSU hang around. Do not give them a breath of oxygen at all. Put your foot down. Simpson, that offense, go after it. The pump, touchdown, pump, touchdown. Defense 3 and out, defense 3 and out. First quarter should be 14-0, 17-0. Set the tone. If you let LSU hang around, they might just be like, screw it. We have nothing to lose to go out and try to win this ball game. Start your dominance. It's a rivalry. Destroy them. Make them the butt of all jokes. Continue to keep pouring on the pain, because right now they're fragile. They're a fragile football team. They're a fragile fan base. They're a fragile university. End it. End it early. If you let them hang around, they might actually decide to care and play football late. I think Alabama wins big. This game will not be competitive. Mid-second quarter after that, they'll be done.
Fresh, this game reminds me of the great Marina Wars in Northern Ohio back in the late 90s, early 2000s between Romps and Valley Harbor Marina, where Romps had the mini golf course, they had the ice cream stand, they had the much cleaner marina. And that, to me, signifies Alabama. And Romps went through I don't want to say ownership change, but different people took over it through the family, and it kept humming. Yeah, it takes a minute to grow into it, which I think is kind of what Kalen DeBoer has had to do. To take over for Nick Saban, and there's a growing process. And there's a minute where you got to go, okay, I'm the head coach of the Alabama Crimson Tide. Last year, he lost 4 games. Okay, get it. I realized that's not going to be acceptable here. And I don't think it was lost on him like that. He then just went over and then says, no, this is going to be what the standard is. We're still going to keep it at the Alabama standard. And they've played impressively all year long. Simpson's fantastic. I love what I've seen out of Jam Miller since he's come back from his injury at the beginning of the year. I don't know. I feel like there's something missing with Ryan Williams. And
yeah, there's something definitely wrong.
I think there's something wrong there. Can't really put my finger on it. But again, Alabama to me is the Romps of the Marina world. And, they have the great parts of everything. They have what's great about college football. They have what's great about the boating industry in Northeast Ohio. And again, you take a look at LSU, they're Valley Harbor, just that school that, it's nice, but there's always something missing. There's always something that is preventing them from being like, no one's hitting in practice. Well, they don't have an ice cream shop on their land there. Governor has to get involved in coaching politics. Like, there's just so much weird stuff that is happening. Like, you think back 5 years ago, they won a national title, 6 years ago, whatever it was. And then, was it less than a year? Was it 1 year later that Orgeron was fired?
He went through, after the 2020 season, yeah.
Yeah, and that was...
This was the 4th year that Brian Kelly was there, 21, 22, 23. Oh, 22, no. Orgeron was fired in 21 because it's 22, 23, 24, and 25 for Brian Kelly. So Orgeron was fired in 21. The game basically 20 is a reprieve, and it kept falling apart in 21. Fired him then. So he got a year and a half reprieve after the title. He was gone. Look at Brian Kelly's 4 years and he's out.
And you think about, like, you would think the national title would buy you so much more time than a year and a half. And I get it. There were a lot more cracks showing at LSU at that time. And remember the whole sissy blue shirt thing with UCLA and all that stuff. Wonder, like, if it's just your crazy uncle from Baton Rouge who's driving the LSU bus and no one knows. It's like, hey, you know what I said there? And talk like Baba Boucher and all like that and go eat some crawdads over here. We'll go do some voodoo at that point. I think that's the guy who's driving the LSU bus right now. And I think a lot of people want just like, okay, I'm going to get off for a while. I'll catch the next bus when it comes around. We're going to sit here for a bit and just see what happens because
I tell you right now,
that's
LSU
crazy.
fans, I mean, their women's basketball coach, she is a little off kilter at times. They're focused. It's baseball season already in Baton Rouge. They're ready to go try to defend their College World Series title. That's how bad it's gotten right down there in Baton Rouge.
Yeah, we're over the crowd there when we drive boats like this. We go over there and drive like this. We hold the wheel like this. We get down way forward. That boat we got there. Go down Bourbon Street. Take us to Mama. Yeah, that's the person running the athletic department at LSU probably right now. You're welcome, everyone.
No, it's the interim AD. He's a little more refined, but still not. There has been some scandal with that guy too. So there's definitely problems everywhere.
Fine, Fresh. We'll say it's his alter ego. All right, we got the Navy Midshipmen, our last game here, Fresh. This one's at 7:30 on NBC. The Navy Midshipmen, 7-1 on the year. They're traveling to South Bend, Indiana to face the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. And a time of record, Notre Dame is now a 26.5-point favorite. I'd say take Notre Dame and the points again. Over under is set at 57.5. As good as Navy is, I don't see them having a snowball chance in hell against this Notre Dame team. Notre Dame knows that they have to be perfect from here on out, and they have to look good doing it.
Yeah, if I'm Navy, just get to the game, stay healthy, and really keep your focus on the American League, the American Conference, and then beating Army at the end of the year. This game, Horvath, go out there, do what you got to do, put in a valiant effort. But if you win it, that's great. We've seen them play close, but just give it your all. But focus on the bigger things that play, and that could be a playoff bid, and it could be, and also beat the Army at the end of the year. So, you give everything. You're not going to quit. And that's from the Naval Academy, students and grads. But you have to understand the landscape is going to require a perfect game where Horvath is going to have to run the ball, throw the ball efficiently, and that defense is going to have to be ready to tackle. Two very, very good running backs from Notre Dame and a very physical offensive line. They're going to get pounded on a lot. They're going to have to show up. Can that Navy defense truly hold up and get some stops? And can the Navy offense sustain very long drives that produce touchdowns? It's the only way Navy wins. Produce some long drives, eat the clock, hit it, be a play action touchdown every once in a while to sort of shock them. But you need to sustain significant 12, 15 play drives that require 8 to 10 minutes of the clock at a touchdown consistently to be able to beat Notre Dame. In the end, Notre Dame's just a really good football team. I think they take care of this one pretty easily.
Yeah, I think Notre Dame's going to roll in this game. Again, I know Navy doesn't want to ever say this, and he never would quit on it. But if this game is out of hand at halftime, there's part of me that would say pull Horvath. And again, don't let him get banged up. Call what it is, run your triple option with your backup there. And I know he wouldn't like that because he's a midshipman and he's the guy in Annapolis. And like you said, Fresh, they don't quit. I think sometimes the adult needs to step into the room and say, this isn't our day, guys. Hey, I hope Navy keeps it close. I hope they make it interesting. And to me, those two running backs are just going to pound away at this midshipman offense or defensive line. And then CJ Carr there. I really like CJ Carr from what I've seen from him. I think he's one of the better sophomore quarterbacks that we're seeing out there. I think he's one of those kids that maybe next year we might really talking about him taking off in terms of talent, because he reminds me of a kid that is similar to what we saw with Ty Simpson. Is he's being developed. Again, Ty Simpson sat longer than he did, but again, the idea of developing him over time and not just throwing him into the boiling pot of hot water that's Notre Dame football.
Yeah, this is a chance where it's a challenge. We saw what happened when Army had they were undefeated. They took on Notre Dame up there in Yankee Stadium. It was a valiant effort. It didn't, it really, I think, messed with the psyche of the football team. You could see it it hit them hard. That reality was there. They're playing a real good football team. Obviously, we know Navy plays them every single year, but this is a big chance of give your best valiant effort, but stay focused because there's bigger things at play, not just in this game.
Yeah. All right, Fresh, let's do some quick ones here. What do you got for me?
My first quick hit is the Georgia Bulldogs going down to Starkville. It's 11 a.m. kickoff. It's a track game. You have Texas coming into Athens in 2 weeks. You just beat Florida. You're looking at maybe Georgia Tech after that in a playoff spot. Don't overlook Mississippi State. They took Texas to the brink and they almost beat them. They beat Arizona State earlier. It's a different team from years past. You can't overlook them. You got to be focused because you could lose a playoff spot by falling there in Stark Vegas on Saturday morning and Saturday afternoon. Speaking of potential, trap games, basketball season starting. You have one that you want to
Yeah.
talk about from this game.
It's not a basketball game, although it'd be a heck of a basketball game even this year. The Duke Blue Devils, they're 5-3 on the year, and they're going to UConn. And UConn is 6-3 already. Right now, Duke is a 9.5-point favorite. Watch out for this Husky team, though. UConn team is scrappy, dangerous, kind of under the radar team. I like them a lot. I would be super intrigued. Kind of would lean UConn and those points because they're at home there. But Duke has played fantastic, and most people would sit there and be like, well, you're talking about the Duke Blue Devils. Yeah, they're a solid football team, and they played really well this year. To me, Duke winning, but I would be very, very tempted to take those points.
And, speaking of UConn, what Jim Moore Jr.'s done there, got them to, they had, 9 wins last year, developed a pretty good football team for an independent program. With the way the coaching, landscape is, and some guys getting extensions, his name might pop up if he wants to take a bump up and take a little more of a different challenge and sort of try to retest his skills that he used to have, before in the NFL at UCLA. So a lot of intrigue in that ball game there up there, between UConn and Notre Dame. UConn and Duke. I got one more quick hit. Speaking of coaches who have something to prove, Stanford at North Carolina. Somehow North Carolina, they're looking for their second straight ACC win. Offensively, they've allowed 21 to Cal, 17 to Virginia, and 10 to Syracuse. Making progress. Can we actually see a winning streak for Bill Belichick and the Tar Heels on Saturday?
I mean, highly possible, man. Highly possible. All right, Fresh. Last quick hit I got for you. Although we're going to play the Price is Right version of this game. You got tickets to 3 football games here. You got Boston College hosting SMU. You got the Miami Hurricanes hosting Syracuse. And you have the Louisville Cardinals hosting Cal Golden Bears. Hey, Price is Right, man. Put these games in order from most expensive ticket to least expensive ticket. Oh, and yet every ticket you can get into the stadium, and all these tickets are under $10 right now.
Oh, so I know I tweeted this out on Monday, and there was a couple of games for $20. So I know the cheapest one that I saw, I haven't seen it today. The cheapest was SMU Boston College.
Yeah, it still is. It's $6. You can get in at $6.
I got that in my wallet. I'm going to say the second cheapest one is the Louisville game, and the Miami is the most expensive. That's what, $18?
Nope.
$12?
Miami is the second cheapest game. You can get into Hard Rock Stadium for $8 on Saturday. There's an $8 ticket on StubHub, and Louisville is the most expensive game right now at $9 out of those 3.
Yeah, so there's 9. I know you can see Kansas, Arizona for 20 on Vivid Seats. So yeah, folks, if you just want to get cash out of your wallet, if you still have that, go to a ball game, find a seat. It's just not obstructed view, but go catch a game.
Yeah. And then you got Washington at Wisconsin also for $8.
$8. And the beer's probably worth 20, so you get it for 8. You spend more on beer, which is probably still a better deal to watch the Badgers play the Huskies, because that could get ugly really quick.
Yeah. And then you got the riveting Tulsa versus Florida Atlantic. That's going to cost you $8. It's more expensive to go to Florida International at Middle Tennessee than any of those games.
No, great. It's one ticket, but that says something that the one thing that really shocked me was Boston College is terrible, but Louisville is ranked and you can get a $10 ticket.
Right. That's
Miami
the impressive thing.
is ranked and you get a $10 ticket. Now, we all know Miami fans are very fair weather, especially down there in Miami Gardens. That's one thing, but Louisville, you should be packing that stadium. It's embarrassing.
All right, Fresh, what do you got for a fresh pick this week?
Oh, well, I don't think we should be doing this anymore. We're 5-8 of the year. B sucked it up again. We're on a losing streak. I could easily take Indiana money line, but I'm going to at least try to push a little bit more. We're taking Indiana to cover the 16.5 at Penn State. I think Kurt Cignetti wants to make a statement for recruiting. Not only is, Penn State's not even worth the job. I'm going to put the foot down on them, and I'm going to keep pushing this to be the number 1 team in the country. Indiana to cover the 16.5 at Penn State.
Yeah. I like it there, too. I'm kind of shocked you didn't take – I like the SMU 11.5, too. That bought
SMU 11.5, but I've already used SMU, and they let me down 2 weeks ago.
That's true.
Yeah.
I forgot you used SMU. Maybe, We'll talk later. All right, Fresh. Week 11 is in the books. We have so much to talk about. We appreciate all of you guys because you are tuning in, especially to our recap shows, which has been fantastic to see this year. Make sure you're following along with us. Hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, get notified every single time we drop a new episode. Follow us on social media out there on the X. I promise you, folks, I will drop my rankings prior to the committee every single week. I already put one out there. Fresh is doing it on spinnablesports.com, so make sure you're checking out spinnablesports.com. I'll throw mine on the X so you can engage with us. We can talk a little bit about it. Give me your opinions. Where did I go wrong? What did I do well? Yeah, most of you aren't going to tell me what I did well. You just tell me how wrong and idiotic I am, so I like that. And make sure you subscribe wherever you get your podcast from. Special thanks to our producer, Drew. Without him, none of us is possible. Fresh, we're at week 11. We got week 12 coming up. We're cruising on our way to rivalry week. We'll be here before you know it. And then we got bowl season up ahead.
Time right now. Be remembered in November. Every game makes 10 times more than it did on paper before. The games are much more tight. You got to just find a way to survive in advance and reach the playoff. We'll dive into our recap episode after all the excitement this week on Sunday, and we'll get back to you guys later. But until then, we'll talk to y'all later. Bye, y'all.